सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि। सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोद। निराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मेस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
We'll chant Kenopanishad Part 2.
यदि मन्यसे सुवेदेति दभ्रमेवापि नूनं त्वं वेत्थ ब्रह्मणो रूपम्। यदस्य त्वं यदस्य देवेष्वथनुमीमांस्यमेव ते मन्ये विदितम्। नाहं मन्ये सुवेदेति नो न वेदेति वेद च। यो नस्तद्वेद तद्वेद नो न वेदेति वेद च। यस्यामतं तस्य मतं मतं यस्य न वेद सः। अविज्ञातं विजानतां विज्ञातमविजानताम्। प्रतिबोधविदितं मतममृतत्वं हि विन्दते। आत्मना विन्दते वीर्यं विद्यया विन्दते मृतम्। इह चेदवेदीदथ सत्यमस्ति न चेदिहा वेदीन्महती विनष्टिः। भूतेषु भूतेषु विचित्य धीराः प्रेत्यास्माल्लोकादमृता भवन्ति।
The first mantra of Part 2 gives the expression of the student who have experienced Brahman as it were due to the exposition in the Part 1. So the master cautions them that what they are experiencing is not really the subjective realization, but it pertains to the expression of Brahman as they conceive the God. So therefore he tells them, what needs to be ascertained by you, it is still yet to come. You have a long way to go. This is the caution. To which, in mantra 2, a student very humbly submits himself and says, Na aham manye suvedeti, no navedeti vedacha, yonas tadveda tadveda no navedeti vedacha. In the first mantra, master says, Yadi manyase suvedeti. So the Shishya says, Naham manye suvedeti. In fact, I think it is Max Muller, based on the translation of this mantra, this particular mantra and the next, but particularly this, he commented that Upanishads are blabberings of humanity in the early childhood, because literally any person who reads it per se, he will not be able to make head or tail out of this. But ironically, this is probably the closest expression of a self-realized soul who is trying to explain what he has achieved. So it is impossible for him to convey and the words break. That's what we see here. I do not think I know well. Not that I don't know. I know that for certain. He amongst us who knows that, knows that. He amongst us who does not know that, also knows that. So this mantra has a lot of sort of somersaults. Yadi manyase suvedeti. So the student says, Naham manye suvedeti. The words break. See, a parallel for this is, it is not a obviously absolute example, but you can think it is not difficult to understand this example. Imagine if any one of you has lost your identity. Let us say Paul is there and you have forgotten that you are Paul. You have completely forgotten your name, your relationships. You may think you are even a king, or you are into some other completely different identity. And therefore, people around you taking compassion upon you, they take you to a doctor to give treatment. Now, through proper treatment and little bit of understanding and later cooperation from the patient, that person has regained his identity, which is Paul. Now imagine how he will express his experience now. Suppose if that doctor was hypnotizing him that, do you know Paul? Do you know Paul? Do you know Paul? So this is the way, let us say, he has been trying to put that thought back into him, make him understand. Now he has completely cured himself. He has fully established in the identity of Paul. So when he says, it is not that I know Paul very well. See, suppose you say, your opposite person is some Guha is there, some Banerjee is there, then you have regained your identity. I know very well Guha, I know very well Banerjee. Like that you will say, I know very well Paul. That you will not say. You will not say, because you cannot say, I know myself very well. I know myself very well means you are one more person apart from you. That is not the case. So not that I don't know myself very well. That does not mean I don't know myself. Don't you know that you are yourself? Yes, obviously I know. Certainly I know. So not that I don't know, I know for certain. So this is where he completely sort of stammers, or completely he breaks up. Exactly the same parallel you put it with reference to self-realization. He has been given that idea by the Upanishads, by the master, and by his practice that you are the self, you are the self. So when we practice saying that I am the self, or when the master says you are the self, it is a method for us to practice. So as of now I am not the self, therefore I am the self is a way by which I am going to reach the self. Now till that point of time, self or godhood is what is known as a paroksha jnanam. We studied that during Tattva Bodha. Paroksha means a jnanam or a knowledge through a higher eye. The higher eye here is Shastras or the Guru or through some other source, that you are able to tell yourself. See, the pratyaksha jnanam is what you get through perception. Here perception is out of question. This I cannot see. That is what this Upanishad has time and again emphasized. So therefore the Shastras and other thing gives the knowledge about the self, which is a higher eye, which is a higher knowledge through which we know about it. Therefore we are asked to know the self. Now this person has got subjective realization of the self, which is called as aparoksha jnanam. There is direct realization. Here the knowledge is not something objective. So you cannot say it has been seen by him as a perception or known by him through any other agent or something. It is as though the waker has woken up into the waking state. The dreamer has woken up into the waking state. Like that the waker has now woken up to the self-realized state. In that state he says, Not that I do not know very well. That means knowing very well, etc. is something outside you. Not that I do not know, but not that I don't know. I know it too. I know it in the sense, I know it in terms of my subjective realization. That is what he is saying here. He is saying, not that I do not know it, because surely a self-realized person knows the self, but I know it. That knowing is not any other knowing. It is not knowing something else apart from us. So it is not an objective knowledge that I have gained, it is a subjective realization. To explain that subjective realization, he is trying to find words. He is not able to find really words. Therefore, the words break here. That at least is okay. The second line, it goes into another twist. He says, he amongst us who knows. He amongst us who does not know also knows. He amongst us, Yonas tadveda. Naha means of us, amongst us. Yaha, he who. He who amongst us who knows it. He who amongst us who does not know it also knows it. This seems to be a very glaring contradiction. And to put it in simple words, a self-realized person knows the self. A person who has not realized also knows the self. That's what he is effectively saying. So if you put it that way, it becomes easier for us to at least grasp the meaning. See, the example is given in the book also. You go through that to study, because it is impossible to convey it without this example. A person is deputed by a company to deliver an important package, courier, to their sister concern in, let us say, from here, Calcutta to Jamshedpur. And he has to deliver it personally because it's a very important document. This person starts in the morning and reaches Jamshedpur by afternoon. By the time he searches the office and finds it, it is, let us say, almost 4 o'clock. He goes there. And he has been asked to personally hand it over to the manager there. He goes there to find that the manager has left for the day. So he has to stay there that day and reach the manager next day and hand it over to him. That was not the plan, but now this is the only way. So in the evening, how to spend the time? He asks them and they say there is a park. There is something called, I don't know, Jubilee Park there. Jubilee Park is there. He goes there. He spends the evening there. In the evening, when he is spending time there, he meets a very nice couple who are strangers, but they interact with each other and they are talking about Jamshedpur in general, etc. They are spending a lot of time there, the husband and wife. And then they say goodbye. And next day, morning, first thing, he has to go to the office and deliver the parcel. He goes there and he sees the manager. To his surprise, it was the same person who he met in the park yesterday, the day before. Now, this is a simple episode. Now, carefully think about the incident in that episode. In the previous day, the manager was there. With him, his wife was there. With him, this courier was there, the stranger. Did the wife know the manager? Yes. Wife. Wife knows the manager. Wife knows her as the husband, but obviously she also knows he is the manager. Did the courier person know the manager?
No.
No.
He knew the man, but
He, without knowing, there was a lot of interaction, there was a lot of exchange of conversation, etc. So the next day, suppose if somebody were to ask that person, did you know that person? Yes, actually he knew that person the previous evening because he was interacting with him. But did you know that person as the manager? Obviously he did not know the person as the manager, but he knew that person. Nobody can deny that he knew that person. He was interacting with him. He was friendly with him. He was a close friend also. Maybe in that 1 hour that they spent, they become close friends. Except that they did not exchange visiting cards, because if they had done, they would have known. This is the limit. Don't say that they interacted so long, they did not even know each other. Then the example goes. Go by the spirit of the example. In the example, they had interacted, they had spent, or let us say they spent time together in the theatre. They are sitting next, they are clapping, or they spend same time at the Keenan Stadium watching a match. Both are enjoying, clapping and cheering for the same team. They are also, both are supporting for the same team, except that they don't know who they are each other. Next day when he goes and meets the person, oh, same person. He was the same person. There is a sudden element of surprise. But that surprise is not because he did not know him to be that person. That's about all. So, the wife who knew the manager. The courier who did not know the manager also knew the manager actually. So, you cannot deny that he did not know. Those of us who knows it. Those of us who does not know it also knows it. I recommend that we have seen it before, but for those who have not seen, to see the movie called Random Harvest, one of the best movies Swamiji always recommends, and particularly when new guests and all come, he makes them watch in the academy. It is based on some novel only, but somehow it's an old movie, black and white movie. The story somehow fits it into this concept. It is a very interesting movie. There is a great wealthy person called Charles Rania, who had enrolled himself in the army also. And in the First World War, he gets injured and he loses his memory. So he is there in the asylum in 1917 or so. He is brought there, not 1915 or 16, he is brought there. He is there in the asylum. And he is now sort of emotionally starved, and there are many people, he has forgotten who he is. And there are people who are, because the war, many people are lost and found, etc. So many people try to come and find out their son or their brother. He is eagerly waiting if somebody will own him up. But unfortunately, nobody does that, and he is disturbed. In that disturbed state of mind, he one day escapes the asylum. He escapes the asylum and he goes to a nearby shop where there's cigarettes are all sold. So he goes into the shop, and then there is a attached theater. In the theater, he goes there, and the leading artist of the theater is Paula. She sympathizes with him, she takes pity on him, makes him sit for the show, and after the show, and he finds a new emotion with her, because she is somebody who is able to show real emotion to him. And then she has to leave, but this person feels helpless, so she sort of takes him along with her, and she moves away from the theatre obviously, and they go to a countryside to set up a small house, like they get married, and this person has still not known who he is, but he has found a new relationship and he has developed a new affinity towards her. There's a genuine love, and he has now started writing as an author, and in the countryside it's very peaceful, they are happy, they are just got a newborn baby also. And then he has to go to Liverpool for some assignment. He goes there. He stays in the hotel with his briefcase. And then when he comes out of the hotel to meet whoever he is supposed to meet, on the way he meets with a slight accident. In that accident, he gets his old memory back. The old memory is that he is Charles Rania, one of the leading business houses of, or one of the leading aristocratic families of England, and he has completely forgotten what has happened between 1916 and 1919, those 3-4 years. He has completely now wiped off from the memory. He has forgotten that he has married Paula, he has forgotten about the small child, what happened in the asylum, and how all those things he has completely forgotten. The house key, one key he has in the pocket. That is the only thing that he is not able to understand. Why is this key in my pocket? He has also forgotten that he came to that hotel and everything. So that key is now the reminder for him. Once in a while he takes the key and sees, and he is thinking, why is this key here? Where does this key belong to? Because there is something that is striking him. What is this key all about? But he is not able to recall anything. And then the tragedy is his child dies, and Paula doesn't get her, she is clueless about where this person has gone. She doesn't get her theatre job because she is out of practice. And then, by which time Charles Rania has become famous again. He is also about to be married to one of his own relatives, and that relative is a young girl who also likes, but somehow he doesn't gel with that relationship. Just before the marriage, he looks strangely at that person who is about to marry, and she understands that this person is caught up somewhere. He is not able to explain what it is. So their marital relationship is not going to be smooth if they marry, and she withdraws herself. And in the meantime, he becomes a very big businessman. He gains a lot of money, and now Paula somehow meets him, but he is not able to recognize her, who that Paula is. She joins as a secretary in his own office, and she is urging to tell him that I am your wife, and only one doctor knows about it. So she is even asking the doctor, should I reveal myself? Should I reveal myself? Doctor says, don't reveal yourself. Even if you force yourself to say that you are his wife, it will not make an impact upon him, because he is still not recovered, got that memory. It has to come from his within. It has to come from his within, and he has to understand you as his wife. Then only it will work. So she is there working together with him. In fact, for a reason, somebody says there is an old briefcase, and they find out this is the person who had left it there. He goes along with her and checks the suitcase. There are some necklace and other thing. He just couldn't remember anything. Paula is desperately waiting that something or other will remind him of his past. And then he marries her again. He asks her, since you are also not, he thinks she is also not married, or her husband is gone. And why don't we have a good understanding, why don't we marry? He marries her. He becomes the member of parliament, and he is very famous, and everybody is admiring him. But time and again, he only looks at that key. What is this key all about? That key comes to him again and again and again. And Paula is actually tortured. Mentally, she is not fully tortured, but she is going through a lot of disturbance, because he is there with him and she knows it, yet he doesn't know. So she wants to take a break, and she goes to a hotel in the countryside. In the meantime, there is a labor problem in a factory in Marlborough. That is where the asylum was. So in order to solve the problem, as a member of the parliament, this person goes there, and he settles the issue beautifully. After that, and he tells his secretary, this is the first time that he is going there. As such, in his cognizance, this is the first time he is going there, and he solves the problem. After successfully solving, they just want to have he says, get me a cigarette. He says, I don't have cigarette. Doesn't matter. There's a shop here. Go and get the cigarette, he says. Then his secretary says, this is the first time you are coming to Marlborough. How do you know that there is a shop? That is the point. He is beginning to slowly remember. How did I know this shop? when I'm first to this place. Then he remembers the shop, then he remembers the asylum. He goes to the asylum, he walks through the gate, goes to the shop, and that same person is talking there. The shopkeeper, he's a very talkative person, he's talking there still the stories. Then he remembers he met a girl there. And that girl he married, he remembers now the Pola, and he marries and they settle in a house, and that house key is this. So he automatically goes to the countryside where Pola hears from that place that this person has come here, and she also visits the house. As she is visiting the house, he has already entered the house and opened the key, and then he comes back and there is a reunion with Pola. This is a very emotional, touching movie it is. Now, this is the story. Who is the Pola? Who is Pola here?
What is the name of the movie?
Random Harvest. Who is Pola?
Self.
The Supreme Self. Who is this Charles Rainier? The individual. Actually, you are married to the self. You are with the self always. You are interacting with the self. And yet, you grandly claim you don't know the self. That is not the truth. Actually, you are never separate from the self. This is the essence, or rather you can say Swamiji interpreted it, doesn't matter, but it fits in so beautifully, that you are always in constant touch with the self only. Yet, you don't know that this is the self. This is the tragedy. And so therefore, the state of realization, it is said in the Shastras in one way, that when you realize the self, how do you feel? Atma Bodha says, Swakantha Baranam Yatha. How you feel that you have found your necklace, which is always on your neck. You say that I have found my necklace. But when you say technically I found my necklace, the assumption is that the necklace is lost. But did you lose the necklace? You did not lose the necklace. It was always there. Sometimes don't we search for the car key. It was there in the pocket. You are searching it everywhere outside. It is there in your pocket only. So like that we are searching for the self everywhere, but it is there within us. We have been interacting with it, and yet we do not know what it is. That is why technically in the West you talk about atheist. Atheist is a person who denies the existence of God. Of course, there the meaning is denies the existence of God as it is given by Bible or in Quran. That is not the point. A person who is actually denying God, from Vedantic parlance, if you see, actually he is denying himself. At any point of time, that you do not lose touch with the self is ascertained by the fact that you never stop to use the word I for yourself. Even in the case where you lose your memory, you can forget that you are Mr. So-and-so. You don't know your name also sometimes possible because of some brain damage and etc. All the memory is gone. You may even ask the question, where am I? You can ask the question, who am I? But you will never ask the question, am I? Who am I? That I is there with you. That I was there with you throughout your state of unconsciousness also. That I was there throughout the state of any state of consciousness, whether you are dreaming or waking or going through any phase, that I never leaves you. Therefore, if a person were to actually deny God, he is actually denying himself, which is not the case, which can never be the case. So therefore, this I is something which doesn't leave you, it is related to you, you have been constantly in touch with it. So those who have realized the self are like the person, the wife of the manager, who knows the manager to be the manager. The person who knows the manager but not as the manager or all the rest of the other persons. So those of us who know it, know it. Those of us who don't know it, also know it. The Vedanta treatise, finally one story is given, which Swamiji narrates in the Yajna also most of the times. The change between a person's perception, pre-realization and post-realization is this, that in a kingdom a young prince was born, and in the deluge, a flood came and everything was destroyed. Some thoughtful person put the baby on a basket and left it. Everybody, king, queen, everybody got destroyed in the flood. Somehow this basket floated and reached some corner of the kingdom, and somebody was, after the flood subsided, somebody took care of the boy, and or he was left as an orphan. He grew as a beggar. Those who were left over in the palace, they began a frantic search, because the kingdom is without the king, and slowly but surely the prince has to be molded into a king. And only clue that they have is a sort of a mole of the size of shape of a mango is there in the back. That is the only clue that they have. Otherwise they have no clue. Search is on, but they are not able to find him at all. The other side, he is growing as a beggar. Some days he will get some money from some people. He is happy. Some people will chase him away or give him bad words or something. He is very upset about it. At the end of the day, he will make some money. Somehow his life is going on. One day, where probably in a non-begging prohibited area, he went and begged, and he was caught by the police. And since he repeated this mistake again and again, he was produced before the court. And in the court, they were ordering lashes for him as the punishment. For the lashes, they removed his shirt, and suddenly one of the old ministers saw that there was a mango shaped mole was there. Then they recognized this is the lost prince, because he also is now maybe 10-12 years, and the deluge that happened was also 10-12 years back. So they put the equation, and then they saw the face, etc. It sort of resembled, and then they came to the conclusion, this is the lost prince, and the kingdom has gained its rightful prince now. Then they put him in the chair. It is first difficult for him to settle down, but slowly, maybe in a year's time or so, he settles down in the throne. Then, just to have fun or to get some education, whatever it is you can say, he put on the old beggar's clothes and went into that corner of the kingdom where he usually begged. Some people were surprised to see him, because for long he is not there. Some people gave him money, some people gave him again bad words, and they shooed him away. And he collected that and he came back to the palace. Now carefully differentiate the experiences of the prince. Before he knew he was the king, and after he knew he was the king. Before he knew he was the king, he was going through the same experience. Now deliberately after he became the king also, he went through the same experience. But what is the difference? In the first case, he did not know that can you say that he was suddenly a prince? No, he was the prince actually throughout. But in the first 10-12 years, he did not know that he was the prince. The whole kingdom belonged to him. Though the kingdom belonged to him, he was actually begging in the kingdom. Actually, exactly the same position, says Vedanta. It is you are the master of the universe, and you are begging at the altar of your body's perception, emotions and thoughts for paltry joy. Actually, the whole kingdom belongs to you. He was begging, and he was getting affected through the experiences, because some gave him money or some gave him some other thing which he did not like. So therefore, he was getting affected with the experience. This is the experience of the prince before. After he became the king, he deliberately went through the same experience, same type of experiences he got, but what is the change? He internally knew for certain that he was the prince, therefore he was rooted or established in that personality where nobody can touch him. Externally people were giving money to him or throwing stones at him. This was external to him. It was not even affecting 1 inch of his personality. This sort of a thing where you are rooted in your personality and then going through experience in the world is the state of a self-realized person who is rooted in the self, identity of the self, and he is going through whatever he is going through without zero affectation, without any affectation. So therefore, those of us who know that this is the self, which is a self-realized person, he knows it, he definitely knows it, no problem. But those of us who don't know it actually know it. It is just that we are not realized it to be the self. So actually what you are interacting is the self. It is not, we have out of our delusion given this title, he is an enemy, he is a friend, he has various other things, and therefore with a friend we are happy, with the enemy we are sad, with a relative it's okay. Like that we are going through ups and downs because of the titles that we have given. Actually you are interacting with the self is interacting with the self, nothing is happening basically. So if a person like an actor on the stage is rooted in his identity, whatever roles you go through in the stage, it will not affect you. One day you can be playing a Hamlet who is going through tragedy. Another day you are put on a vesha of Krishna and you are going through various other experiences. But you know that you are for sure not that role, Hamlet or Othello, whatever role that you have taken, you are not that. You are Mr. So-and-so playing that role. While playing that role, if that role requires to cry, you will cry. If the role requires you to laugh, you will laugh. But nothing of it touches you. This transformation of internal thing is called as the state of realization. From that standpoint, he is saying, those of us who know it, know it. Those of us who don't know it, also know it. Yes, sir.
The first part of the mantra, the Guru is cautioning the disciple.
First mantra. Second mantra, right? Shishya Uvacha. That's why it is not given in the Upanishad.
Yeah. That's right.
Second mantra, Shishya is speaking.
Yeah. He says that I understand, respectfully submit that that I understand that caution. And the next line, the interpretation is, and respectfully submits that he has attained the transcendental state beyond the mind and intellect. Now, how do both these work together simultaneously? Being cautious and knowing that you have achieved. Isn't there another set of contradiction?
No. He is respect. See, that means in the parampara, how it comes is, even a person is realized, it is not that he becomes disrespectful to the Guru or anything like that. So the Guru is cautioning, generally maybe there's a group of people and all their faces, the glow is there. So he cautions them that if you know too well, if you think you know too well, you know very little. So there's a long way to go before you ascertain. So in that parampara, out of the same humility, now the humility is actually 100% because he has realized the self. Therefore, he humbly submits to the master and says, actually I have realized the self. How do you say that? So he says, not that I don't. So he uses the words of the master to say, Yadi manyase suvedeti. If you think you know too well. So immediately he says, no, I don't think I know too well. But not that I don't know. I know it also. So that is why there is no way that it can be converted. All the words sort of break there. So it is showing utter humility of the disciple here. Yes, sir.
In the example given, the second part and so many examples given, the only difference probably could be that one is only knowing and the other is knowing with realizing. That is the only difference.
That is the thing. It is realization of one's true identity. Till such point of time, the objective knowledge now completely merges into internal realization. That is the difference.
But the objective knowledge, Shastra says that is a superficial type thing, like what you say, the materialistic knowledge, and the other one what we are talking about is the spiritual knowledge, which is the knowledge of the self.
That is the difference. So therefore, the point or the spirit of the thing is, you are actually living. The fish can never live out of ocean. So you can never live out of consciousness. We are as though married to self. We are living with the self. You can never be separate from the self. But unfortunately, that ignorance or maya or whatever you call it has made us believe the other thing. So the person who has gone out of it, he says, we have been, so in another way, the Shastras also explain as though when you wake up to the reality, and it is said that we go through so many, in this realm, so many janmas, etc., that we go through. Imagine koti janma or thousands and thousands of janmas that we go through, and then one day, one janma, we realize the self. Having realized the self, one of the beautiful ways of explaining how you feel that is like, see, suppose you are sincerely wanting to come to the class, sit and listen, but for one day you are very tired or something, you feel sleepy, but you don't want to miss it also, you are trying hard to listen, but still it overcomes, and for a moment, like that you doze, and for a moment, and then because of the movement of the head or something, you are actually awake. So actually, for all practical purposes, you have gone into sleep and come out of it, but you have never lost the continuity. You have been actually continuously listening. Exactly like that, how the blinking or the 1 minute going off and on, it is in the whole span of 1 hour. What is that? That is not even 1 second. Like that, in the whole span, if you want to give it a time frame, you are the self. All the janmas that you have gone through is like this thing only. So it is just that in between also you have never lost touch, but it is a very firm belief that we have lost the touch. So he says, those of us who don't know it also know it actually. It is that we know it, we are just not aware of it. Therefore, a guru has to come and show us that this is the direction, Yes, sir.
Little more, I've been thinking about it. Little more different. This realization can also come in gradually, maybe?
No. You can, it is, do you wake up in stages? No. When you wake up from sleep, you just wake up.
I'm thinking about something. This previous evening conversation, this gentleman who has come from the other town, he said, actually I am not from this part at all, I have come to deliver something here. That is part of the information. The next part is, he says, I am coming from so-and-so office, I have come to deliver this to the manager here. Even then she does not know who the manager is. The manager probably gradually realizes that this man could be from my head office. Can that happen?
Manager can know. This person doesn't know. That is the scope of the example.
I know that is the scope. But the same thing applies to the manager also. Yes.
See, in the example it applies to the manager, but in the real thing, self knows. That is the point. So that is the limitation of the example. Yes.
Sir, it's difficult to comprehend the situation when you say, I know it but I am not aware of it. So what does knowledge here mean? I mean, I know it but I am not aware of it.
No, I am not saying I know it, I am aware of it. In and through whatever you are experiencing in this world is nothing but the self only. What you may give it a name and form and say this is a wife, this is a son, and have different relationship, etc. And going through the effects of that relationship, if you go into the depth of it, in essence everything is the self. You are interacting with the self. You are never away from the self. But this realization comes after you realize only. So a person who has crossed that delusion, from his standpoint, he says, actually we have been in touch with the self. We are knowing it, but we really are not aware of it. So I am using the word awareness in terms of realization.
Sir, the first line when he says, I know not well, but in this statement you are saying this knowledge can be in degree, but realization is not in degrees.
Realization is not in degrees. So I know not, I don't think I know well means, I don't think I know it very well in terms of any objective knowledge. I don't think, so the same words of the master he is using to say that it is not in objective way that I know it only subjectively. Think about it, it's a very, very subtle verse. Yes,
Sorry. See, when we are, knowledge is gradual, right sir? Knowledge is in degrees. And ignorance doesn't have degree, it is a sort of a on-off situation. Now, when we are acquiring more and more knowledge, are we not crossing certain levels of ignorance? So isn't ignorance also in degrees in that sense, sir?
So what is ignorance?
Not knowing.
Not knowing is as it is in deep sleep. Deep sleep doesn't have any different degrees. Deep sleep is deep sleep. Waking state, dream state are all different levels of consciousness. Now, lack of knowledge is called as ignorance. Okay, as you are going through and you are crossing various aspects, you are going from lesser knowledge to more knowledge. That's all. In the waking state, we don't talk it about as ignorance as it is. In other words, darkness is absence of light, but at any point of time there is light. It is just that in your perception you are feeling it as dark. Like in the night sky that you see up, it is actually light is there. A cat is able to see something which you are not able to see. So you cannot say light is not there. So that state of absence of light you imagine to be darkness. Darkness is darkness as it is.
So that another example given to us is cyanide in kitchen fits in here. The moment he realizes cyanide is put in that, he immediately goes to.
Yeah, that is the immediate realization. So therefore realization is actually immediate knowing. We'll chant mantra 3 together twice.
Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasaha avijñātam vijānatam vijñātam avijānatam yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasaha avijñātam vijānatam vijñātam avijānatam.
Whosoever does not comprehend that, he knows that. Whosoever comprehends that, he knows that. That is unknown to those who comprehend, that is known to those who do not comprehend. This is another sort of somersault that this here you put Guru Vacha. This from this mantra again, Shishya speaks for only one mantra. Here Guru speaks. And what is interesting here is, Master seems to actually confirm the truth, and he seems to confirm the experience of the student who had submitted to him in the previous mantra. But what he says is actually opposite. In the previous mantra, what did the student say? Those of us who don't know it also knows it. Those of us who know it, know it. So, in both cases, no. That's what the Shishya says. Here the Guru says, whosoever does not comprehend, he only knows it. And he puts the corollary as the opposite also. Whosoever comprehends, he knows it not. He very clearly puts the, the opposite also to be true. That means those who know it, they don't know it. Those who don't know it, they know it. And 2 times he says, very emphatically. In the second, he puts it maybe in a passive voice and in a very general tone. It is known, that is unknown to those who comprehend, and that is known to those who do not comprehend. See, there is the terms matam and amatam again has to be taken here as matam is a subjective realization. Yasya amatam tasya matam. That means a person who does not know it objectively as any perception or emotion or a thought or a paroksha jnana, a person who does not know it this way, he is the person who actually knows it. That means he will not tend to describe it as anything which is apart from him. He is the person who has actually realized the self. Avijñātam, matam yasya na vedasaha. But any person who says for sure I know it, he doesn't know. A person who says I know God, or we had breakfast with God, or I had shaken hands with God, or I have felt God, I have known God, no, he doesn't know. So a person who knows this knowledge as objective knowledge, he does not know it. A person who does not know it that way, that means it is not that, okay, I do not know, now I know the self. No, don't take it that way. A person who is not able to really express it as anything objective apart from him, he is the person who has actually internalized it and grasped it fully. So this is the point that he says. In chapter 2, verse 69, I think, of Bhagavad Gita, these languages of contradiction are also, remember, sometimes deliberate. Of course, it is very clear that he is not able to express himself and it pours out, that is clear. But the masters sometimes use deliberate language of contradiction in the Shastras to make us think. If everything was, there is an inbuilt reflection. Suppose if we read it through a novel, then like Max Muller, we can also say it's some blabbering. We'll go to the next mantra. We'll make, if it will make any sense, we'll see. We can pass through. But deliberately, it is given in such a way that you cannot turn the page without understanding it. It is. You are going to see it next in Ishavasya Upanishad also. That moves not. That is inside everything. That's outside everything. That is fast. That is slow. All this is given in the same mantra. So, this language of contradiction is very common in the Shastras. It is a deliberate ploy to think. Like Krishna tells in Jnana Vijnana Yoga that I am going to give you knowledge and wisdom. That means I am going to give you knowledge in such a way that you are forced to reflect and make sense out of it. In the Sthita Prajna portion, he gives a beautiful explanation of Sthita Prajna, all in simple terms, but profound philosophy. And then, towards the end of the chapter, he gives a sudden jerk. He says, Yanisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami. For the beings, when it is night, that person is awake. And for the persons, when they are awake, he is asleep. That's all is the matter. What is he saying? Is he like a night watchman or something? No, Sthita Prajna is not a night watchman. What he means is, the way in which the normal ignorant person sees the world and the way in which the self-realized person sees the world are entirely opposite. Where even you can bring it to relative terms. Where you see very clearly it's a scope for enjoyment, he very clearly perceives a danger there. People are not afraid to venture into sensual activities and they think this is joy. And in the moment of madness, they do something which spoils their whole life also. He is very cautious there. And where are people afraid when somebody says, even to those people who have been in this knowledge, who are studying, suppose if a person even related to you, not forget your own son or daughter, they say they are going to join the Vedanta Academy, means that immediately they are afraid. What should not be really a point of fear, that is really people are afraid about. So it seems even in practical terms there is a difference in perception, difference in understanding. When it comes to absolute, where you see the names and forms, he actually sees the unified self. So your perception and his perception is like night and daytime, that sort of opposite. So therefore he gives it as in a riddle form, in a very cryptic language for us to think and understand what it is. Exactly the same way, here the master is saying deliberately, probably after what the student has said. The student has repeated what the master has said, Yedi manyase suvedeti, naham manye suvedeti, he says. Okay. Then he says, those of us who know it, know it. Those of us who don't know it also know it, he says. To which the master gives a approval in the form of a contradictory answer. He says, those of you who don't know it, he who does not know it, he alone knows it. Those of you really know it actually have not known it. And then he puts it in a passive sentence, avijñātam vijānatam vijñātam avijānatam. Now why this repetition? The repetition could be that it could be for emphasis, or secondly it could be taken that first statement he is telling directly as a pointer to what the student has said, and second statement he tells in general to whosoever in the world. They do not know it if they know it objectively. and if they are able to subjectively apprehend it, they do not know it objectively. This is how it should be taken. So therefore, all these mantras in the part 1 and 2 lays emphasis on the upasana and the knowledge of Nirguna Brahman. Nirguna Brahman is the Brahman without its attributes and qualities in the purest form. So that pure form of Brahman, even you say form of Brahman, all these words, it can only be subjectively realized. The essential message of the Upanishad is that God is the subject in you which apprehends. So you can only become that subjectively. You can never experience it objectively. That message has been given in a very beautiful mantras in form of jumbled words and expressions like this. So the essential message is to get to that Nirguna. So whatever you are experiencing here, you have to negate it as non-self. Non-self means that which is not the self. So what you experience as perception, emotion and thought in the world, and what is actually helping you to experience in terms of your body, mind, intellect, everything has to be negated and said, not this, not this, not this. If not this, then what? That is the self. So therefore, we do not know the self for certain to hold it, but all that we know, we can negate. So whatever is left out finally, that is the self. That's how it should be understood. Whosoever does not comprehend that, he knows that. Whosoever comprehends that, he knows not that. That is unknown to those who comprehend, that is known to those who do not comprehend. We'll conclude with chanting of mantra 4.
प्रतिबोधविदितं मतममृतत्वं हि विन्दते आत्मना विन्दते वीर्यं विद्यया विन्दते मृतम् प्रतिबोधविदितं मतममृतत्वं हि विन्दते आत्मना विन्दते वीर्यं विद्यया विन्दते मृतम्.
We'll conclude with the bhajans here.
Anand Govinda Radhe Gopala Jayananda Mukunda Anand Govinda Radhe Gopala Govinda Madhava Gopala Keshava Govinda Madhava Gopala Keshava Giridhari Giridhari Jaya Radhe Gopala Giridhari Giridhari Jaya Radhe Gopala Ghanshyam Shyam Shyam Jaya Jaya Radhe Gopala Ghanshyam Shyam Shyam Jaya Jaya Radhe Gopala Jayananda Mukunda Ananda Govinda Radhe Gopala Jayananda Mukunda Ananda Govinda Radhe Gopala Govinda Madhava Gopala Keshava Govinda Madhava Gopala Keshava Gopala Keshava Gopala
पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।